Hi there, welcome back to Apatros Review. In this episode, Blind Vengeance, directed by Stephen Leeb in the year 1994. Hi there, welcome back to Apatros Review, your guide to the wild world of science fiction action horror cinema. Me, your host, Mila Sipka. If you want to spell name, just look at the channel name. Now in this episode we look at the film Blind Vengeance, which was released in 1994. It's a direct-to-video film. It's actually a direct-to-video martial arts drama of sorts, and it was made by Gun for Hire. Now, the emergence of the direct-to-video market in the late 1980s spawned a whole new industry of financially challenged filmmakers who wanted to get into the movie business but otherwise didn't have the funds, or in some cases the time, to gain enough support to take on Hollywood at its own game. But it wasn't until the very early 1990s when the direct-to-video industry gained the full credibility it needed to become the force it needed to be to become a secondary industry of Hollywood. In the early 1990s, studios specializing in direct-to-video fare became masters of their domain, from New Image to the legendary PM Entertainment. Tend to be forgotten about in this era was Gun for Hire, a small studio that made shoestring budgeted martial arts-oriented action films and dramas. I have a total of 4 of Gun for Hire's catalogue, and the best of them, Broken Bars, a rip-off of the Jean-Claude Van Damme classic Death Warrant, will be reviewed in 2022 at the earliest. It's a pretty decent film. Over this and the next 2 reviews, I'll be covering the other 3 Gun for Hire films I have in my collection, in roughly chronological order of release. We start off with this review of Blind Vengeance, which was released in 1994, making it roughly 27 years old at the time I made this review, in which stars minor martial arts champions Carl Van Meter, Pelly Ferrer, and in the hero's role, Rod Kai. Okay. In Blind Vengeance, Rod Kay and Carl Van Meter play 2 former friends and fellow students of the same martial arts dojo, turned bitter enemies after a falling out during their youth when their master gave Kai's father some much-needed funds as a reward for his son's progress, while Van Meter was royally pissed off. Years later, Kai is a champion fighter owner of his own dojo, while Van Meter, I'll dispense with the character names since it's basically irrelevant for the purposes of this review, is an expert street fighter who routinely messes people up every time somebody pisses him off. His boys keep on harassing Kai's students in an attempt to get Kai to finally give up to Van Meter's demands to settle their feud in the ring. Kai, knowing fully well how brutal Van Meter is on the street, and knowing fully well that going up against him is nothing short of suicide, keeps respectfully declining the offer. But when a new female friend who used to train Van Meter's gym, before having enough of the guy's sexual harassment, and switches trainers to Kai, gets sexually assaulted by Van Meter, Kai decides that enough is enough, and accepts the offer to settle this once and for all in the ring. But in the downtime before the match, Kai goes back to the sensei Pelly Ferrer to undertake more training to get confident enough to take on Van Meter and survive. Blind Vengeance is pretty damn basic in the story formula, using the time-honored plot of the 2 feuding arch-rivals that propel its limited story along. And the acting is also pretty damn bad, although in this sort of film arena that's not always a liability. What is a liability, however, is the flat direction which borders on amateurish at times, and the fight choreography is severely lacking. Seriously, guys, get somebody to set up your fights. Instead of improvising them, as better stage fights look more spectacular and convincing they're simply doing things au naturel, unless the fighters have chalked up enough screen credits to qualify as experts. A little lesson for you martial arts filmmakers out there. Stephen Leeb seems to have no ability in directing actors and handles the fight so flat that there's no excitement whenever some martial arts mook gets their arm broken or their head kicked in. Seriously, an amateur martial arts film that looks suspiciously close to being a home movie, amongst friends that somehow accidentally got a VHS release. And unlike the shot-in-the-backyard alien invasion epics of Don Dolo back in the 1970s and 80s, this kind of thing ain't technically sophisticated enough to qualify as a gem in the rough. That being said, it isn't terrible, so if you're a completist of the 1990s direct-to-video martial arts movies, plenty of them around, this feels like a retro roughie to your taste buds. Enjoy the cheap ride. This gets a D, a 2 out of 10 out of me. So it just makes it a bad film. Not terrible, just pretty bad. Now there's no gore, but a little blood and 2 shooting deaths. And it has for nudity. Carl Van Meter's stripper friend, played by Dorian Vallon, tries to get Van Meter in the sack while he's working on paperwork for his gym, but he's not in the mood. Her sexual advances, including stripping down to her panties, showing off her modest boobs, seems to make him more disinterested until he finally gives up and beds her. Now, Blind Vengeance was released on Australian DVD by Flashback Entertainment back in the early 2000s. Okay, so that's it for Blind Vengeance, which gets a D, a 2 out of 10. It's pretty bad stuff. Not terrible, just bad. But if, like I said, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, it might be worthwhile getting. Okay, that's it for that review. Now, I don't do requests, but if you want me to check out a certain type of horror or science fiction action film, just hit me up in the comment section. I'll see if I can include one in. Okay, I hope you guys are staying safe, and the coronavirus is still going on, especially in India. Ooh, those poor Indians. Okay, that's it for this review, and see you around next time.